Hi, my name is Sheldon Christensen. I tell action and adventure short stories, and I'm sharing some with you here on my channel. I hope you like and subscribe and share with your friends. It's for entertainment purposes, and at some point, these and others that aren't going to be on YouTube will be available for print and digital. Enjoy. Bye.
To Be a Good Man by Sheldon Christensen. You're looking thin, girl, Henry quietly spoke in an almost whisper. At least that was how Henry saw his 3-year-old daughter. Her mother's wavy black hair draped around her neck seemed thin, her cheeks, her temperament, all thin. Lucy was weepy and hungry. Watching her sit with her only doll made him feel thin too. His phone pinged on the end table. Reaching for it, Henry hoped it was Sarah, letting him know that she was on her way home, working 2 more hours. Henry spoke in his now accustomed quiet voice to no one, just enough not to get overtime. Stretching his arm out and drawing his elbows into his side, the two forearms could not look more different. The right was a lean, well-muscled, tattooed with military images. The left was smaller, in a noticeable way, with a jagged white scar along the outer edge, as a constant reminder of his time in the infantry. His left hand looked fairly normal, but really had no strength. Looking over to the mantel, he gazed at the frame that held his medals. Behind it was his honorable medical discharge. Nothing else in their home was military. Adrenaline began to flow, and he put Lucy down on the love seat a little more firmly than he would have liked to. Standing up tall, he walked over the one bedroom of their apartment and straight to the closet. Pulling down a black metal box, he turned and moved quickly to the bed, running the combination, Sarah's birth month and day. Opening the box quickly and pulling out the primary content, a Smith & Wesson Model 36 revolver, he left the speed strip with 5 .38 special rounds in the box. Holding the revolver in his right hand, running his thumb over the rough wood grip, memories of his father came to his mind. Dad was a good father. He had worked hard and was around as much as he could be for Henry. It was his dad who insisted that he call himself Henry and not Hank. Henry had taken a fair amount of teasing for his name when he was in school. His dad said Henry was a respectable man's name and would suit Henry well when he was grown. Henry liked his name. It gave him a sense that he was supposed to be somebody. Opening the cylinder, he gave it a spin, smooth and well oiled. Closing the cylinder with a snap, he raised the revolver in his right hand and pointed at a blank spot on the wall, giving the trigger a firm pull. Snap went the hammer. Moving the firearm to his left hand, he could now feel the weight of the steel frame. He repeated the pull of the trigger, this time straining a bit. This had been his father's gun. How he wished his dad was around to give him advice, to help him out, to listen to him quietly like he always had done when times were hard. He listened for a moment and the apartment was quiet. Peeking out the bedroom door, he realized Lucy was sleeping quietly on the love seat, the only chair in the small living room space. His adrenaline was waning. Somehow he needed to get food for his family. Somehow he needed to be a man and provide. Putting the unloaded gun in his right front pocket, he went to the kitchen. It was a futile move that led to more frustration. There were minimal remains in the ketchup and mustard bottles, salt and pepper in the original containers, not even shakers in the place. Looking up at the old-fashioned, square, transparent kitchen light fixture, he saw that 2 of the 3 bulbs were burned out. He wondered how dark it would be if the last bulb burned out. He turned off the switch and tried to imagine it before sunrise. His mind went to waiting and watching from cover as the sun rose over a mountain in Afghanistan. He had been hungry there too, but he knew his hunger was different then. It was a hunger he could not feel in his fellow infantrymen. He could feel Lucy's hunger. He could feel Sarah's hunger. Noticing the weight of the revolver in his pocket, he pulled it out again. He knew he could sell it. Likely he would not get what it was really worth. In the selling of it, he would be selling the protection and security provided Lucy and Sarah when he was not home. His dad had patiently taught Sarah to fire it well, while Henry was in the foreign lands doing the honorable thing. He wanted her and Lucy to be safe. His dad knew he was not going to be around to take care of them because of his heart and the cancer. He might have survived one or the other. Together they were too much. Now he was gone. This revolver was his presence still watching over them. Henry looked out the kitchen window and saw a couple of younger men, maybe 19 years old each, walking with purpose down the sidewalk across the street. They were a familiar sight. These two and several others ruled this block and the next two down. They were rough and often discourteous, but Henry knew what was in their hearts. They were desperate men with few hopes and no way they knew of to better their lives. He served with men from the streets as well as men from farms and rural life. Poor men and men from moderately wealthy families, but no real direction in life made up most of the infantry. The pair turned the corner at the end of the street and were out of sight. Thinking about them made Henry feel hard inside. Life wasn't fair. He had done his part. He had sacrificed his arm. But it felt like everyone discounted his loss. After all, he still had his arm. How many others had lost much more of themselves in the wars of progress? That is the way of war. Men sacrifice and are forgotten, and brushed aside as quickly as their decision to enter themselves into service. He'd get a small check every month to compensate for his loss, a small offering that did not get him a job, a small compensation for the years he could have been learning a trade. Henry lay in bed, but sleep evaded him. Sarah entered the apartment as Henry came out of the bedroom. She moved to hug him, and he accepted the embrace of her arms. She looked into his eyes and said, "You look like you need to get outside a bit." He knew it was true. He also knew that Sarah needed some time alone to unwind from her day. Nodding, he pulled away, slipped on his shoes, and headed out the door. At the door of the apartment building, the caretaker was having a smoke. Henry liked Jim, an older man with a tightly trimmed white beard. "How's Lucy today?" asked Jim. "Sleeping," was all Henry could come up with. Heading down the street toward the collection of shops that made up what would be a strip mall in the suburbs, Henry set a steady pace. Watching all that was going on around him, he noticed things that were the same and looked for what might be different. Something soldiers do. The sidewalk was not so much dirty as well worn with other older parked cars all along its length. This was not a neighborhood to leave nice things out in the open. Again, a group of young men were walking on the other side of the street and a bit ahead of Henry. He suddenly felt the weight of the revolver against his thigh in his pocket. An empty threat at best since it was unloaded. The group headed into the corner store. "Great, that's where I wanted to go," he said to himself. Henry stayed on his side of the street and walked on past the store. Moving along the street, his mind wandered, thinking about Lucy and Sarah. His mind came back to the present moment as he crossed the street and walked back on the side of the street. Passing the businesses along the street, he wondered about working in one of these places. Bang! Bang! Henry plastered himself against the brick front of the shop next to the corner store. 4 long men ran out of the door and down the street as fast as they could move. Henry listened and looked. No more movement. Moving on full alert, Henry walked intentionally close to the store front. Looking into the window of the corner store, he saw the bald, older Asian store owner with a phone in one hand and a shotgun in the other. It was all there. A robbery met with the store owner, tired of being robbed. Henry knew enough not to go in, but waited patiently for the police to roll up. The first squad rolled up along the street and double-parked. Henry stood still with his palms showing the officer as he ran past into the store. Several other cars arrived and an ambulance came, but there was no rush for them. The two who were shot inside were in handcuffs and not fatally wounded. As the first of the officers went back outside, Henry stepped in. The owner looked him over, and the first sign of relief came over him. A customer. Business as usual. "You're Henry, aren't you?" the owner said. Jim was telling you about me last night. Jim was telling me about you last night. He says you could use a break. I could use a good man to help out around here and keep the likes of these out. They think I'm an easy target. I need someone who doesn't look so easy. What do you think? Henry was astounded. He looked at the store owner and then at the two men. I can handle it, was his response. Good. You can begin by helping me clean up this mess after they get these two out of here.
Hi, if you like that story, click like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you subscribe, you'll get to find out when the next stories will be available and when the print and digital versions will be out. Enjoy!